Welcome back. So today we're going to talk about plants in industries. So when we say plants in industry, we are actually talking about plant products that are used commercially. So we're going to discuss fibers, dyes, tannins, latex, resins, oils, and waxes. Let's start with fibers. Now, fibers, there are only a few plants that produce fibers that can be woven or spun. And historically, the oldest record or the plant, the fiber that has long been used um, as a fiber product is from the species Linum or genus Linum in Turkey. So the earliest record of that use, or it has been used since 10,000 years ago. And that is where you get the linen fiber. And there are also records about the use of fiber in manufacturing sandals in Missouri 8,000 years ago. And of course, we have cotton fibers, which was started being used in Mexico 5,400 years ago. Now, when we talk about fibers, commercial fibers coming from plants, we're actually talking about the natural fibers because there are also synthetic fibers. So the natural fibers actually it's a heterogeneous group. So I guess if you're taking plant anatomy, when you talk about fibers, you might think of the cell that has the sclerenchyma cells that are lignified, that are quite long, and you are correct. That is a fiber. But somehow, in industrial applications of fibers, anything that is fibrous and it's derived from plants, they call it fibers. So we have this different classification of fibers. So the use of the word fiber here is kindly like somehow like a loose term to refer to any fibrous structure that is found in plants. So what are the different classification of fibers? So we have the seed fibers or the fruit fibers. Like for example, in cotton, um, you have the core in coconut. So if you can imagine the husk of the coconut, it contains fibers, coconut fibers. Then you have the bast fibers, which are relatively soft, and this is derived from the phloem of yew dicot. Examples are hemp, jute, rami, and linen. Then you have the leaf fibers, and these are the hard, relatively hard fibers that you could obtain from the leaves of monocot. So examples are sisal, henequin, Manila hemp. So this is a picture of abaca fiber, which is an example of a leaf fiber. Abaca is also known as Manila hemp. Then you have here the bast fibers. Um, and if you can still remember your plant anatomy, plant bast fibers are actually phloem fibers. So they're the ones present in the bark of the stem. So if you peel off the bark, it contains fiber, just like the one seen here in the photo. Okay, and of course you have fibers in cotton, which are actually technically not fibers because they are these fibrous structures are actually trichomes of the seeds and not actually fibers themselves. So the way we use fibers here in this lecture is kind of as I've said, it's kind of encompassing anything that is fibrous in plants. So it could refer to the actual fibers, the bast fibers, as we have studied in plant anatomy. So these are the fibers, the sclerenchyma cells that you can find in the phloem. Yeah, that's a bast fibers. And also the sclerenchyma cells surrounding the vascular bundle in monocots, or the ones found associated with the vascular bundle. in monocots, these are also fibers by anatomy definition, like sclerenchymatous cells. And these fibers are the leaf fibers that I'm referring to. So the true fibers actually are the leaf fibers and the bast fibers. And the other fibers, the seed fibers, for example, in cotton, they are not actually true fibers by um, anatomy definition. Now, here is a table of showing you the percentage cellulose content in every fiber material. So as you can see here, cotton has the largest amount or largest percentage of cellulose. And the more cellulose, the more water absorbent is the material. That's why people love wearing cotton shirt, especially in the tropics, because it's absorbent, so it absorbs like sweat, and at the same time it is breathable, so it's cool to wear, right? Cotton. So how is cotton harvested? So cotton is actually like trichomes from the seed. So in order for you to get the cotton fibers, you need to individually pluck the fibers from the seed, and that is very tedious. And during that time, of course, in the past, cotton fibers are manually removed from the seed. But when the cotton gin was invented, the production of cotton, of course, surged. So the process of separating the fibers from the seed is called ginning. And that came, of course, from the word cotton gin. So here is how cotton gin works. So cotton gin is the machine that separates the trichomes from the seed. So you can see those seeds separating from the trichomes. And here is relatively more advanced. Yeah. So that's how a cotton gin works. And of course, nowadays we have big machines now that does the same thing as the cotton gin. And how about harvesting fibers from the phloem, or how bast fibers are harvested? Well, if you can imagine, remember, bast fibers are phloem fibers, and they are part of the bark. And as if you have tried pulling out the bark, it's quite easy, pulling out the bark from the stem. When you peel off the bark from the stem, what is left on the stem is just the secondary xylem, right? And you have the skin or the bark that contains the fiber. But you need as well, of course, you need because so that whole thing, the bark, it still has other stuff there. You're not actually separating the bast fibers yet, because that's just the bark which contains the bast fibers. So there are different steps that you could use to remove the fibers themselves out from the bark. So we have retting, which is actually um, just letting the bark rot. So ret and rot. So I think it's there's a play of words there. So retting involves rotting away of non-fibrous parts. Then you have scutching, wherein beating and scraping of the retted plant. So the plant has been allowed to rot for a while, and then after that you perform scutching to remove and to break, the pieces, the bark into pieces, so that you can separate the fibers. And another thing is hackling, wherein you draw a mass of fibers across pins to separate and align the fibers. So let's look at this one. So this is retting in this video that I will show now, and they have so they put the stem in, they immerse the stem in water, in rivers in this case, and they let it sit there for a while to allow the separation of the bast fibers from the bark. And you need to find the perfect time to do that, because if you let the stem stay there, for longer than it should be, then it will just rot away. So you have a very the fibers would be disintegrate because they will decompose. And if you take it out early, so the fibers might not be, you might not be able to separate the fibers. So they have found the Goldilocks, the sweet spot, the perfect time to let the stem sit there to undergo retting. Okay, let's look at now at the video. So this is harvesting. So this is getting fiber from jute stem. See how they separate that easily? You can separate the bark from the stem quite easily, and you can see the fibers. They are actually, you can see them, the strands of fibers actually separating from each other. So this is the rest of the stem that is left. You have here the bark that contains the fibers, and then you can remove the other stuff, the one that you don't need, the unwanted part of the bark, so that you can just have the fiber. Okay, let's look now at scutching and hackling. So scutching, if you can still remember, oops, it's playing now. Let it just let's just watch this video. How long is this video? Oh, it's done. Sorry about that. Yeah, so this is scutching. Yeah. So we are applying physical force to separate the unwanted parts of the bark. Yeah. And the other one, maybe we could just fast forward it. So the next one, this is halfway, next one. So this is hackling
This
now.
is my combing bench for my combs that I made, 3 deep and like 20 something wide. This set of combs is the fine combs. I actually sharpen the tips on these and not on these. It's actually not really making much difference depending on how you use them. So I'm going to try and show how good uh, heckling would be. And so I got my big tall ones for my coarse and my fine ones for the finished. And I've been working on some stuff here that I've got done. This is just the coarse combing, and just getting there. So I start with a
Yep. So
handful of fiber
you
that's been
you
scutched, broken scutched, and I'm going to take this one and I'm going to break it in half, just so I don't have too much. I start out on the root end, and we do want to try and keep the ends in order so we know root from flower. So what I do is I push it down so it gets down into the nails and not let the tip of the nails do the work.
yeah. So that's what
The comb itself.
hackling is. Let's move it forward. Yep. So it's aligning the
Just kind of use my hand to
fibers.
guide it down into the comb and then pull. And whatever might be kind of tangled, this will untangle it and it combs it really nice.
Yep. Just like combing the hair, to remove to disentangle the fibers. So that's the purpose of hackling. Okay, so we go now to leaf fibers, and these are fibers found in the leaf of monocots. So you have abaca, for example, and you have pineapple as well. So the process of removing the fibers from the leaves of monocot is called decorticating. So from the word itself, it's like removing the cortex, or removing the bark actually. Cortex, which is cortex is part of the bark, right? If you remember your plant anatomy. So decorticating is crushing plant material and scraping away the non-fibrous material. So just like in this one. Okay, so I will end this lecture at this point, and then I'll see you in the next part of the lecture.